Wow, go me. So I pressed the wrong button. Again. Maybe I should move like the button so it's not right next to like my other button where it switches to the pregame show. But anyways, hello everybody. Welcome to the third week of the EGL Waveline. This is your host Exernian. I am joined today by definitely Zell. He's the real Zell, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hey guys, what's
Sultan.
up?
Yeah, that's Zell, by the
Hello.
way. His voice might sound a little different, his profile picture might be a little different, but I can promise you that that's Zell.
Yeah,
And
I've been feeling under the weather, kind of
yeah,
sick.
yeah, he's sorry. He got his COVID shot, and he's losing the voice a little. So that's how that goes. And we are joined by Sultan as well. So Clutch was, he was supposed to be here, but apparently it is his mom's birthday today. So make sure you guys say happy birthday to Clutch's mom. Um, so he stepped out. He's trying to be a good kid, trying to get her like a cake and flowers or something. So
Mm-hmm.
we got the ragtag team, and we're gonna jump right in. So we're looking at last week. Last week we had Hyperion Origin versus Abyssal Sapphire, and it was a 2-1 for Hyperion. And then we had Big Duck Entourage Gold versus Monkeys Rising, and it was a 2-1 for Monkeys Rising. And on stream, we had Hawkthorn Esports versus Revolution Gold, which ended in a 2-0 for Hawkthorn Esports. And the last series was Flippa United versus VBU Krypton, which was a 2-1 for Flippa United. So, Zell, why don't you start us off with your thoughts on the first series?
All right. So we have Hyperion Origin versus Abyssal. So coming into this, right? Hyperion, they had Attila, they had Dracana, right? And from their first week, right? We had Hyperion play against VBU Krypton, and Dracana absolutely smurfed it. He showed up and and put Sox really behind. So coming into this series, we were kind of like looking for Dracana to beat a 1v5 player, right? And he did pretty good for himself. But and he wasn't amazing, but he did performed at a very astounding level. But he was up against James Moriarty, and now this guy, oh my gosh, this guy is really scary at what he can do in the mid lane. Like, have you seen his Corki? He was double digit kills and single
I do
digit
remember
deaths.
seeing the James Moriarty Corky. It was,
Hmm.
oh, that was, I'm having nightmares about that, honestly.
Like
But yeah.
honest, every gold mid laner is probably having nightmares of his Corki. But yeah, like James Moriarty, definitely the star player for the side of Abyssal. Yeah,
Hmm.
but that's my take on it.
Hmm. Okay.
What
I'm
about
hearing
you,
some
Sultan?
hmms from Sultan.
Mm,
So I think before last week's what was the called? Waveline? Yeah.
Yes.
Last week's Waveline. We were I think me and Cole talked about, yes, Moriarty is that carry player for Abyssal. But on the other hand, Dracana is always also like a neutralizer for like those carry type of players. And I think that's kind of what happened. Although like game one, more James Moriarty was able to get a huge lead with his Lucian, like almost like flame. Yeah, he flame Horizon Dracana in the mid lane. He was that carry player that Abyssal needed. But then game two and three, Dracana was like able to hold that like carry in the mid lane, and he had like highest KP on his team as a mid laner, and like that just shows how much um effect he's having on the map. Like Dracon is just like having pressure and like making plays for his team, while Moriarty is more like, alright guys, just let me 1v9, and I think Dracana just came out on top, and like those mid lane, um like with those different playstyles in the mid lane. And then in the jungle, the looking like LF Zuko's, he played really good. We were also talking about how Rune Mage was going to be a big um a strong point for Hyperion, and he was. He got Irelia both games that they won, and he did really good on the champion. Even the game one, he was like doing pretty decent. Although Golem didn't do bad. So yeah, I think it was like a good win for Hyperion, but it kind of shows that Abyssal needs to find other ways to win if James Moriarty is n- not fed or like he's not on maybe on his best game. So
And if we look at some of the numbers, so Abyssal Sapphire, out of the 6 games they've played so far, between week 1 and week 2, so they've played 2 full 3 game series, and they have an average game time of 37 minutes. You're playing almost 40 game bangers. Like, you're really depending on, like, we saw James Moriarty play a lot of scaling picks, especially when they were on stream the first week. They were playing like Kale and playing like Corky and like a lot of
Corky, yeah.
these, yeah, these really important picks that need time to scale. And I feel that Abyssal Sapphire is, this playstyle we're seeing like kind of develop maybe isn't, exactly what they want. Out of all of the first towers, out of all of their games, they've only gotten the first tower like 17% of the time. So I feel that Abyssal Sapphire probably has to patch up, some of the rough spots in their early game, find, like a strategy that works for them. Because, like, meanwhile, on the other hand, Hyperion Origin, they have an average game time of 32 minutes. So they're cutting like almost 10 minutes. And they have a first tower percentage of 80% in the 5 games that they've played. So obviously Hyperion Origin has a strong early game. Like, they know what they're doing, they know what they want, they know what objectives they want to play for. And I feel that when you have a strategy lockdown like Hyperion Origin does, you're going to find a lot more success in your games if you're
Yeah.
able to, yeah, find those early advantages. But moving on to the next series, it was Big Duck Entourage Gold and Monkeys Rising. So, Zell, you supposedly play for Monkeys Rising.
Yeah. Um, Monkeys Rising, best team ever. I'm there, like, oh, what else could you want? My Blitzcrank, it's insane. Best in the world. You should totally ban it from me.
My Blitzcrank, it's insane.
Like, I have that aimbot turned on. I'm hitting every single hook. Like, it's amazing. But yeah, Monkeys Rising, they played really well against BDE. Granted, BDE is still like having roster issues, right? They still haven't had a stable roster. Um, so I believe this week it's a whole new lineup. Correct me if I'm wrong. Uh,
With different
This
top
week, no, this
jungle
week
ADC.
for Big Duck Entourage, or
hmm
Yeah,
yeah,
I think like if not the old players, they're like have a mainly different one. I think it's all different. Yeah,
yeah.
all what they have.
So I do think BDE is still a very strong team, but they just need to like hone in on what players are going to be playing and then just practice with that team. Because like we're getting to the halfway point of the season, I believe, and it's like if we're still having roster issues at this point in time, it's like it's getting it's getting kind of like sus, man. Like I don't know,
getting kind of sus.
getting kind of sus.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it's difficult because I feel that Big Duck Entourage is trying out so many different strategies with so many different players, and like you said, Zal, that you're really like looking for a stable roster at this point in the season. You only have, by the way, there's only 7 weeks of the regular season in Gold. We're at like the third week, and you've only
almost
got like a
halfway.
month left to really get something like stabilized, or else playoffs is just not in the picture for you.
Yeah.
hmm
Um, I
What do you?
think I
Yeah.
think this series was like a good showing for like mainly like let's say low gold to silver players who have been playing for a long time with each other versus like a mid gold team who's like a new. Like that team chemistry, it doesn't matter your rank at that point because you know how to play with each other. And although you can have some micro mistakes in the game, like you can maybe do mechanical mistakes or like some macro, like tiny ones. If you just have that chemistry and know what to do as a team with each other, when you play as long as this Monkeys Rising team did. I think it's just gonna be easier for you, and that's the problem with BDE because there's that, like Exonia said, there's like a month until the regular season ends, and they probably need to find at least a win like this week at least, so that they can slowly start their way to either to a better roster, a more stable roster, and like grabbing those wins against weaker teams, let's say,
Yeah,
in the league.
exactly. And like you said,
Because
Sultan, like sorry, like I'm just kind of building off of your point here. Like you said,
yeah,
like Monkeys Rising, you have these players that sure they're on the lower, you know, end of the ranked, disparity here. But like these players have played with each other. They have that synergy. They have, like they just know they have a game plan. I think that's what's the most
yeah,
important part of Monkeys Rising. Like point like you're seeing them take off wins of big teams. They took a win off of Hawthorne Esports. They're 2-1ing like Big Duck Entourage, even though, on paper Big Duck Entourage had the winning roster, right? And it's like
yeah.
when you're able to have these kinds of, just consistent players, consistent strategies. Monkeys Rising, I don't want to leak, but I'm gonna leak. They pulled out some of the tech with, the Scion
Uh, the Senna
in the
Scion.
This.
bot lane.
Mhm.
They pulled out some Senna Scion, and like not all teams can make fasting Senna work. It takes a lot of teamwork, takes a lot of synergy between your bot laners, and it's like, Monkeys Rising is pulling it off and they're winning. So
Yeah.
that's all I gotta say on that. So,
And like they're not even having like long games. It's like 27. The two games that they won was like 27-minute wins, which is like, especially when you're playing Fasting Sunday, you're looking for the more late game scaling, but like they just get a lane lead with that bot lane, and then they just like move it with like Chinese Spy. He played really good. He had like a perfect game on Annie. He had only one death on Corki while having like 12 KP. The game that they lost, the bot lane did really well. Even like the whole team did really well. It just came down to, although I didn't watch the match from the end game, it was like Victor being able to scale. So it's just even the game that they lost, they played really good. They had
and
like they were able to like secure objectives, 4 turrets, 2 drakes,
yeah,
like
yeah,
decent.
exactly. And then we're looking at the next series. We have Hawthorne Esports versus Revolution Esports Gold. And this series was the stream series, so the VOD is up on YouTube. It should still be on Twitch, if I am not mistaken. But so Hawthorne did win the first game of that series. It was a, I don't know, it wasn't a landslide, but it was, it was pretty heavily Hawthorne favored. And then the next game, I do think the first game was still quite close, but then the second game was such a bloodbath. There were more kills than there were like minutes that had passed in the game. Like there were times when I was spectating, I was like, man, I really just want to like, I just need to like, oh my god, I need to like get up and like leave. There's just so much going on. Like, and Packapal, Colonel, they were having trouble keeping up with the cast because there was just so much action. There was so much just fighting. And Revolution was doing crazy, crazy well at the beginning of the game. I think it was like, I don't even remember how many kills they were up at one point, but it was like 22 to like, it was like 22 like 9 or something stupid. But it was a huge lead for Revolution. And then Hawthorne Esports just started fighting for every single thing. They were like flipping every single fight. Hawthorne just, they just pressed, they only knew how to go forward. And Revolution, they weren't able to close the game out with like a huge lead like that. And the problem came down to they had so many kills, but they weren't that far ahead in gold. And then, they weren't taking objectives. They weren't like pushing their lead. So I saw so much potential in Revolution. I think the series could have easily been a 2-1 for Revolution. I think they could have easily turned the series, but it was it was a bit disappointing to see, but it was still kind of exciting to see from Hawthorne. So, Mr. Zell, you saw the series on stream, I believe. I believe you were there.
Mhm.
So, what were your
Yes, I did.
thoughts?
So game one, it was more of like the standard like Hearthstone, right? We saw their amazingly aggressive bot lane and jungle just tear through the opponents, right? But in game two is what I find the most interesting. So game two, we see counters on a utility ADC. Now we've mostly seen him on stuff like Kaisa, Samira, the like 1v9 type of ADCs. But this time we saw him on utility. And instead, we saw Hawthorne's solo laners and jungle pop off, right? So they picked the Diana Yasuo. Now the Yasuo was kind of like I'm not gonna say he was running it, right? But he wasn't having the best of times.
Yeah.
He wasn't having the best of times. But then unfortunately Rev just wasn't able to like flush out the wind, right? And as the game kept stalling, the Diana Yasuo combo just became more and more potent. Like we'd see counters send an Ashe ulti, get a pick, and then it was just a CC chain after that, right? We have the Gnar, we have the Yasuo, Diana. Like Revolution just wasn't able to answer that, and that just led to their downfall, unfortunately. Because while I was watching this, I thought it was going to be a win for Rev, and we'd be going into a game three. But then just one team fight turned the tides of the game, and suddenly they were at the Nexus and just won the game, and it was a
Yeah.
clean 2-0.
Exactly. And Hawthorne is that team that is so aggressive and plays, you know, like if they die and they get a kill, then it doesn't matter. It's worth because
Mm-hmm.
like even just looking at their numbers again, they have as many kills as they have deaths for the whole team average. It averages around 24 for each, 25ish closer to deaths, but like you're like these numbers really just tell me that Hawthorne is just flipping and fighting for everything, and it really it's not easy to exactly punish in gold. I feel that even in platinum it's not the easiest thing to punish if a
Mm-hmm.
team is doing it correctly, and obviously Hawthorne is doing most of it correctly if they're having so much success this season. But yeah, Sultan, do you have any closing thoughts on this series?
Hmm. I think I think they just came down to, like you said, just not being able to use the leads. Because like you see both games, like Unknown Angel had like two incredible games, like one on Syndra, one on the Fizz, while he was like 10-4 on Fizz and 7-1 on Syndra. But the problem was, although they were like ahead in lanes at one point, they never had like CS leads over their opponents. It's like Bien I don't know how you say the name. Gideon Exaigan. He had like he was like 3-1 and 13. But he was down 40 CS, which is like awkward because the more you get ahead in jungle, you should be able to like invade. And with the comp that they had, it's like Nocturne and Galio, they can like come from all sides. So I think it was just they were not able to. They were able to get a lead, but their comp is a dive comp. So you have to go for dives. You have to force those fights. And
Yeah, and I just
unfortunately,
wanted
I
to point
was
out one thing. Sorry, I'm looking at this now. I'm actually wrong. I wrote down the recap wrong. It was actually VBU that won last week. I wonder if I can do a little of the movie magic. But sorry, Sultan, you can keep talking.
okay. Um, Y- Well, yeah, it's just they were not able to use their comp to the best. It was
Mm-hmm.
they were able to get the lead, but they were not able to use the comp to end the game. And the first game, it was just like it's just Arth played really good, 5-1 and 3 on an AP Shyvana, just like sending nukes to like it is just it just really feels awkward when you look at the end match because I wasn't able to watch this series. Like when you have your top laner, he didn't die once, and like your mid laner died only once. Like it's normally not that way when you're losing games. So it shows Rev dies less, but like they need to probably find new ways to be able to use their leads. And if they can, they're just still up there in the like top four spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean overall, I do think Rev just has to find a way to push the advantages that they were able to find. But okay, so for the last series of last week, it was actually a 2-1 for VBU. Sorry, I think I was like probably just really tired when I made this. So, Zell, you were the only one to believe in VBU, I think, last week.
I mean, it's VBU Krypton. I heard from my boy Mad Pizza that they're a pretty good team.
Uh,
And I had to take his word because it's Mad Pizza and he's from VBU. Great guy, by the way. Never misses own ults. Like it's like
yeah,
an
never
auto
does.
lock. Um, but yeah, so VBU Krypton last week had a really good showing, right? They had a new mid laner, Kaiten, and that's kind of what the team needed, right? Like we saw Kaiten show off, pop off, a 1v9 the game. Uh I don't know what champs he played. I'm trying to look it up, so
Was
bear with me. Um
Zerath, Yon, Gwen?
there if you
Yep.
yeah. So like the Yon game, like unfortunately Flippa just gave I like the movie magic.
This is the movie magic. Yeah.
But yeah. So unfortunately Flippa gave VB Krypton Kaiden's one trick, and then Kaiden's second one trick, Gwen. So like he just kind of popped off on both of those picks, right? On the Yon he was 10-1, and on the Gwen he was 2-5. So obviously with this new roster, Krypton is looking a lot stronger than what they were in the previous weeks. But they will have a hard time in the upcoming matches. I do believe they're playing Hawkturn this week.
Yeah.
Um, so it's I still believe in them because Matt Pizza told me to believe in them. But yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to see what Kaiden can bring to the team. How this team will like function with a new like carry style mid laner.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think VBU obviously has some strong points. Um, like I've mentioned before, I do think Islamic Samurai does have a lot of, drafting and shot calling capabilities. And I mean, if Clutch were here, he would be, he's VBU's biggest fanboy. So he would be rooting
Hmm.
for them. He would go on and on about how good VBU is. But Sultan, what did you think about this
Um.
series?
Well, most of the players on the VBU team are like actually players that I played with before. So like I know like as a jungler who played with Kaiten before, if you give him the resources, that guy is gonna like take you to the finish line. He's just gonna carry you and your team. Let's say he's gonna say, "Come on, team, I'm 1v9ing, so doesn't matter. We're gonna win this game." So yeah, Kaiten being on that team, being that carry point in the mid lane, because Toxin, he's a really good player, and if you give him the resources, he can also carry. But um, he likes champions like Sivir, like Jinx, that can scale pretty decently and just more toward the utility side. And Kaiten is like that player that everyone wants on their team. He can like just get leads for himself, or like he can run with the jungle, get leads from that. So he's really good with it. And adding Samurai to that, and like him being able to roam with the jungler, with Kaiten, and like just enabling them to get to the point where they can carry the game, it's gonna be really good. For Flippa, they had a really good game in game one, where Riv was on Tristana, and like overall they did solid as a team. And I think they just need to play together more. Uh, it's just if they get more synergy, because I think they added Riv last week, like they had the Isa game one, so it's just I think it's gonna get better for them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
I've
it's
been
hard for
rooting them for
Flippa
the
though. Like
yeah
like we said before, like it is hard when you're losing a lot of games. Flippa did start 0-1 into the season. They adopted an 0-1 record from one of the RAR teams. And then they lost the second week. Now you're already 0-2, right? And you've got you've got 5 more weeks, including this week, to try and pick up more wins, right? I don't see their season getting much easier, right? This week they are against Abyssal, and then next week they're against monkeys, and I just don't think that I do think that this, because we only have 8 teams in the league, it this league itself, I feel like there are a lot of teams that just like anyone could beat anybody. And when the
Yeah.
games and the teams are so close, it you're really fighting for a playoff spot. There obviously is still some time to try and pick up more wins and like, you still have a chance at playoffs. No one is locked in. But when you're starting 0-2, it is hard. You're starting to get a bit more desperate, I would
Yeah.
say, for wins.
Like
But
some people might call me biased by the point like this point because I've been rooting for them for a long time now. But I just feel like this team, like they can lose to like a really weak team. But they can still like they have the potential to upset like other big teams. Like I
yeah.
would say Hawktorn, they're still yet to play with them. I think
Mhm.
Hyperion they still didn't play against.
And it becomes so important to have these like tiebreakers and have these head-to-heads, right? Because then
Yeah.
when it comes down to the tiebreakers, like like we saw in EDL season 1, it came down between like a three-way like head-to-head thing and like some like game differential kind of magic. And when it comes down to that, it's so important. But
Yeah.
we will move on to the real hot takes of today's show. The first game we're going to be looking at is Big Duck Entourage Gold versus Revolution Esports Gold. So Clutch is not here with us right now, unfortunately. So he's the only one who did decide 2-1 for BDE. And Zal, okay. I'm gonna have to let you guys in on a secret. Zal's actually not here. We have some imposter with us.
Pat meets
Oh,
Oh
you
no.
really voting me out like this, huh? I see how this.
So Matt Pizza, if you had to put in your predictions, would you agree with Zell's or would you agree with like Clutch's?
Honestly, I probably would have agreed with Clutches. I would have gone probably 2-1, same as Clutch, BDE. Um, Reason being that I believe with BDE's roster swap, they have Puber returning to the mid lane and Psych returning to the top lane. With this roster swap, I think BDE is a really scary team.
Mm.
And I mean, it's not to say Red Rev is like bad. Like they are still a really solid team, but I do think like the Puber Psych synergy that we've seen week 1 is not to be taken lightly.
Here, I'm gonna give you some more
Uh,
movie magic, Matt Pizza. Here you go.
Okay,
uh, okay. Mad Pizza.
yep.
Uh, hmm.
I'll
Wait.
just take over. Yeah,
Yeah,
there we
well,
go.
Sultan, on the other side of the coin, you said 2-0 for
I
Revolution.
I think I just disagree with Mad Pizza. Like I think they talked about Psych and Puber and like them being really important players for BDE. But let's not forget those players did play for BDE in week 1 where like they lost to Abyssal. So like they're probably going to play better than the last week's roster, in my opinion. But I think it's not like a roster move that would like just make a team who has been losing for 2 weeks just go up and like just win against like Rev, who played really good week 1, and although they lost week 2, they still like didn't play bad. Let's say so. Um, I think Rev should still be able to win with BD. I didn't know that BD was gonna play with this roster, so I would maybe like change my prediction to a 2-1. But I think 2-0 is really possible for Rev if they
Yeah,
can. I think BD is a team that they should be able to use their lead to end the game easier than Hawkthorn. So if they can just like still find those leads, but just like be able to just like close out the games, I think they should be good. I don't think like Psych and Puber is just gonna like give them a hard time.
yeah, I kind of do have to agree with you, Sultan. Like, Big Duck Entourage has been going through so many roster changes, and I feel like that's just really what it comes down to. Like, they used an E-sub week 1, and then they used it as a sub week 2, and then like they benched Psych for a week, and like you're changing a lot of players around, and that changes your strategy, and then changes like team synergy, and I feel like Rev has already found ways that they can win. like I said, I saw so much potential from Rev last week on stream when they played against Hawkthorn Esports. I do think that like on paper, Big Duck Entourage has always been able to get good paper like players on paper. But when it comes down to team chemistry, team synergy, and just having, like ways to execute your game plan, I do think Rev has the upper hand. So I did say 2-1. Um, like overall, I just like I don't really know what else to say. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
I think eh, I don't think there's like a lot much to say. I'm sure if Cole was here, he would pull up some stats,
yeah. If
talk about how
Clutch was
Psych is
here,
1v9. But I still like Psych. I think he can do really good into and against the Revolution's top laner. But uh I just think Rev should have like a decently easy time for their like mid and bot lane, and like them just being able to win off them, just like we saw like Unknown Angel being able to
yeah, I do think
win
Unknown
the game.
Angel and Zygon or Potter, like they're a really good mid jungle
Yeah,
duo. I've
yeah.
seen a lot of good plays through both of those players, and I don't know, Rev, you've got something going. And also, I also voted Rev because Tex got mad at me that I voted against them last week. So, and
Well,
I'm
you were
giving
right.
it to Tex this week.
You were right.
Yeah,
For
I
I
was,
guess
but but okay. We'll move on to the next game. So it's Hawkthorn Esports versus VBU Krypton. And we're looking a little one-sided again this week. So Matt Pizza, as someone, I can add some of the movie magic again. What is your prediction for this series?
Uh,
VBU 2-0.
you know, as much
No.
as I enjoy my boys on Video Krypton, this is one game where unfortunately I just cannot back them up even a single game. I'm just gonna say a clean 2-0 for the side of Hardcore Esports. Um, I just think like I don't know counters Matty Mice and Art in the bot jungle synergy. I just can't. It just amazes me. And plus, their mid laner is also now starting to get in on the action. Like we're seeing, um, forgot his name. Give me a quick second. We're seeing human luckiness like also like show up. He's able to play like aggressively with the team comp as well. So I think once all the pieces fit, right, they get all 5 pieces of Exodia, then Hogton Esports it's
Ooh.
just unstoppable.
Mm, I
Yeah.
think VBU has a decent chance in this series.
Whoa, we've got a surprise guest who came back. I thought you were buying gifts for your mom.
Already done. I'm just that quick, man. I already got
Little one too.
everything needed. Yeah, it took me 30-ish minutes to go get the gifts. I have connections, you know. It's called the Jewel.
Owner gap. Owner gap.
It's called going to Jewel Osco.
We got the movie magic. As you can see, I added Matt Pete's prediction onto the.
That's pretty good. I think that's actually the best looking part of this graphic right there. That
You should
Matt
see
Pizza
the
down there.
one before too. Here, this is the for the slide before.
This was
Oh,
this.
wait, you had to take my big duck entourage one? That sucks for
Yeah,
you.
he's like, I think I would agree with Clutch, and I was like, okay, let me just. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
I
I'm
also
just giving
messed
this
up.
guy
I
a
messed up the last
Oh,
series of the. By the way, guys,
Okay.
I'm irreplaceable. Clutch won't fire me, so
yeah,
this is what he
that's
gets.
true. That is true.
So,
I mean,
Should
it
I
makes
break
this
down
be
my
more
prediction
interesting.
or are we going next?
No, we just got
no,
here.
we just started this one.
Oh,
Yep.
we just
So
got here. Okay.
yeah, all right, Clutch. You said 2-1 for
Shit,
Hawkthorn
I
Esports
did.
versus VBU Krypton. Why aren't you voting for your org? I thought you were like their biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, so week one I voted for them and then they lost. So clearly every single time I doubt my own team, they win. And then every team I
Disowned.
think they're gonna win, they lose. So it's actually just reverse
Disowned.
psychology. So I'm saying Hawkthorn because then I know VBU will win 2-1. It's actually head. Um, but in all seriousness, I think Hawkthorn and VBU are actually somewhat close. Like I don't think it's gonna be very one-sided. Um, The only problem for me, I think there's two roles that are one-sided for one of the teams, and I think that's gonna be mid lane for VBU. I think Chitin is like an absolute beast, because he's gonna be playing. Now this game did get rescheduled, so it won't be played today. But Ho- Chitin's a beast. He's going up against, I think it's like Human Unluckiness or something. I think is their new mid. I think he's okay, but I think he's like average. And Chitin is probably one of the best mids in the league. But for the side of Hawthorne, I think their bot lane's just insane compared to VBU's.
Yeah,
So
that's
I mean,
why that's definitely my matchup to
yeah,
watch is how the bot lane goes because like we saw Hawthorne's bot lane, Matty Mice and counters like they are just so aggressive. They, they're always like on the same page of like we're going in, okay, and there's just like no question about it. Like I'm curious to see how Toxin and Samurai will be able to respond to that.
yeah. I mean, I think counters and Matty Mice are really good, and I think Islamic and Toxin might have a little bit of a struggle in the bot lane against them. And I think Hawthorne play like we said this aggressive style. And the reason I say 2-1 is I think they're going to go a little too ham, kind of like they do every week, and then end up dropping a game. Not necessarily saying they're bad; it's just kind of their play style, right? It's like we just run at you and it's worked clearly, but yeah, that's all I got to say about Hawthorne. I think it's going to be 2-1. I think they're a very solid team, but I think VBU does actually have a chance.
You hear that, VBU? He believes, but at the same time, he
Yeah,
doesn't
they're getting
believe.
2-0.
Yeah, they're
He
getting two
believes,
zero.
but he really
That's
doesn't
what I
believe.
said.
Yeah. Okay, Sultan, you are also on the boat of 2-1 for Hawthorne.
Hmm. As I said, I think VBU has a decent chance at winning this. Like it's mainly um they have like they just Hawthorne. They just play way too aggressive. But I think BBU might be able to match the aggressiveness that can come from Hawthorne. Like Toxin and Samurai. I said this when I was talking about like the last week's matches where like they're more a little safer side of the bot lane playstyle, I would say. But if they can, like if you draft correctly, they can play that aggressive playstyle. And Kaiton, I played with him, and like if people who know him, he already plays like really aggressive champions. Like his own from last week, he has some other picks that he can play really aggressive, and like picks that mostly people don't expect him to play. He can pull it out, so that might be a plus for VBO. I think it's just gonna come down to if All Fire can keep up with ours, because the main reason why Hawkthorne is winning these games is the jungler. Like he is playing that Diana to enable the Yasuo. He almost carried that AP Shyvana game. Like he plays those 1v9 champions that can enable his team to play that aggressive. And I don't know if Allfire can match him and like just being able to do anything on the map, or if he's going for like aggressive things, maybe he can get something done on the other side of the map. But Allfire has to play a really good series if VBU wants to win. I think it's not going to be the bot lane. It's going to be mainly on Allfire to be able to
And All
match
Fire and Twitch chat just said, I can't
Hawkfire.
XD. So.
All fire,
Oh,
I believe in you, man. You can do it. Part of the college, baby.
But
yeah.
also
So,
at the same time, he doesn't believe in you, by the way.
Shut up. That's not what I said.
yeah, I was gonna say, can we look at the scoreboard right here? Like, what is Clutch 2-1 Hawkthorne, and he believes in VV Krypton? I mean,
Hey, listen.
I think you're just
Sometimes,
asking to lose.
sometimes you can believe, but then you got to face the harsh reality. Okay, that's just
Uh-huh.
kind of how it goes sometimes.
It's it's like a team only a mother could love.
Hmm. I'm
True.
team mom. I bring the oranges after the game.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't really have much else to add. Everyone has kind of said what I wanted to say. I got my 2 cents
No,
in.
it's fine.
Yeah, but overall, I do think like okay, I did say 2-0 for Hawthorne, but if I had to say, I do think that VBU is kind of being slept on right now. I do think VBU has a lot of potential. they have a lot of strong points. Like I said, like they have they have a plat player, they have Toxin. It's not VBU Argon by any means. They don't have Altazi, but there are still good and strong points of VBU Krypton, though I do have to say it is Hawkthorn favored this week. So we'll go on to the next game, which is Flippa United versus Abyssal Sapphire. So we're gonna start with Matt Pizza asking what is your prediction so I can, kind of spice up the
Put it on the
graphic.
board, Matt Pizza.
I'm gonna say 2-1 Abyssal Sapphire.
All right.
2-1
You know what?
Abyssal
You guys are wrong.
Sapphire.
Sultan, you're a good man.
I'm gonna
You're a good
cross out
man.
Zell's name.
Oh.
Zell, please don't be mad.
Live editing.
This is
Sultan,
called
you're a good
movie
man.
magic.
True. Well, I've been believing in Flippa all these weeks. They've been losing, but I didn't lose my faith. um, like in the end, they're gonna win a game. At least the series. I believe in that. Like player wise, especially like just the like Wonderworld, Rev, Brimsy or Spheric, whoever plays, they're like the top caliber team just because of that bot side. It's just gonna come down to if they can actually be able to carry the team. And like Ish and Mike, I think they're not players that would cost you the game. It's just the point of if they go even in lane, be the carry from the bot lane. And I believe in Riv that he can. Although last week they did drop to VBO. I think this week they can definitely beat Abyssal. It's perfectly doable. I believe in them. Go get it, boys.
I don't know if you guys can see. I drew a really good picture of
Oh my
pizza.
I
god.
saw that. And I was
If
just
you
like,
guys
oh,
don't
okay.
know, I'm just drawing all of this on Paint. I make these in
That's
Illustrator.
pretty good. That's
I
pretty
make
good.
these in Illustrator, but it takes too long for me to like
That's
re-export
good.
the thing. So like I'm just drawing on it with Paint. So Matt Pizza, that is now that I've pointed it out, you gotta support your 2-1 Abyssal prediction now.
All right. So the reason I said 2-1 Abyssal, right, is because Abyssal's got a new
Too bad.
roster. They tweaked it just a little bit.
What?
All right. So we have James Moriarty going from the mid
EDC.
lane to the ADC position,
Yes.
and then Golem 24 coming in into the mid lane position. So Abyssal Sapphire switched up their mid carry to ADC carry, right? Now I want to see if James Moriarty is still able to get the leads and make the plays and carry his teams like he did in the mid lane. Because previously we've seen him on ADC style champs like the Lucian, like the Kirky. So I think he'll have a lot of success in the bot lane. And I do think it's a lot easier to carry teams from the ADC position. Granted, if you're not
I
getting one
would have
shot,
to beg to differ,
if
but
you're not getting one shot, if your team
No,
kills for
no, no,
you,
no, 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 no. This guy's a top laner, by the way. Don't believe what he says.
dude, it's so hard to carry games from top lane. What do you mean?
It's so hard to
They
carry as ADC.
no,
Gotta
no.
carry from the mid lane position. I don't know.
But yeah, I think it basically my 2-1 Abyssal just relies on how well James Moretti is able to do in the bot lane and how well Golden 24 is able to act as his substitute, as his replacement, you know. But yeah, that's my take. What do you say, Sultan, since you're 2-0 for Flip, or not Sultan, Clutch? We already talked about Sultan.
I mean, yeah, both same
Oh,
prediction.
okay. We're doing me. All right. So, I mean, I even said this in the content general. So before you even tell me you withheld information from us again, Remzi's not playing today. It's Spheric. So before you go, you withheld information, I can go and take a screenshot of me saying, hey guys, by the way, I don't think Remzi's playing. I think Spheric's e-subbing. Okay? So just getting that out of the way before you flame me, and that I'm withholding information. I want to say Spheric played last week and they slammed VBU in game one. Like they beat VBU. And then Remzi came in and they lost 2-0. Now I'm not saying Remzi's bad. I think he's very good. But obviously with Spheric in it, the team just looks a little bit different. And I just think with Spheric, like this team can beat Abyssal because I think Abyssal is like, yes, Abyssal's good. Now, Abyssal made a roster change. Obviously, their ADC left, so like, you kind of just have to deal with it. Golem's a solid mid. I don't think Golem is like as good as James Moriarty, but I think Golem's solid, and James Moriarty is going to ADC, which James Moriarty played ADC's mid, so I'm not really worried. I think he'll do completely fine in the ADC role. But I mean, if you look at it, that technically is a downgrade for Abyssal, and for Flippa United Spirit coming in. I mean, you could say it's even or maybe even a slight upgrade. So just because of that, I think that Flippa is going to upset Abyssal today, 2-0. I think that this is finally when Flippa starts turning their season around. Because I mean, if you go 0-3, you're kind of doomed, right? Like I don't think you crack top four. So Flippa, I think this is it. This is the anime arc. They finally are going to figure something out. They're going to beat Abyssal 2-0. It's not even going to be 2-1. It's going to be 2-0. It's the upset city. I'm sorry, Abyssal. I love you. I think James Moriarty is an absolute beast. I think he's one of the best players in the league. But it's the Flippa United show. They're gonna burger flip 2-0 today, baby.
Well, you guys heard it here first. He thinks it's gonna be a 2-0, gonna be the flip. At least Sultan didn't tell me to write 3-0 for Flippa this week.
If they win this week, next week it's a 3-0.
Next week it'll be the 3-0.
Yep.
Yeah, I have to agree kind of with like a lot of yeah, well, they're not really contradictory, but like a lot of, on the same points, but on the other side of the coin. Like I do think that yeah, like James Moriarty moving to the ADC position, it'll really change I think how Abyssal will play. I think I made this graphic before they announced that roster change. So I was still under the impression that James Moriarty would be playing mid. But I do think still that Abyssal Sapphire, like last week they did take a game off of Hyperion, and Hyperion is one of, the teams that is 2-0 in the season right now. So, and like just from the stream in week 1-2, I don't know. I feel that I'm still an Abyssal fan. I do like, even with these roster changes, I do think that Abyssal is, hopefully they're coming in as a stronger team today. Because, overall, let's see, let me pull out some of the numbers again. Like, I guess it really does come down to early game. Like, Flippa United, I don't exactly know how this team will play around the early game, but, we're looking at an average of 30 minutes in 5 games that Flippa United has played. They're playing these really short games, and Abyssal Sapphire, like I said, they're playing for these late game scaling comps. So again, I still think it comes down to, will Abyssal be able to, minimize losses in the beginning of the games and be able to hit your your power spike in the late game. So that is my
I
thought.
I think Abyssal's roster change is gonna kind of bite them back, just because if Sifrik is playing like with Riv, although Hogthunner is a really good bot lane, like Riv Sifrik is like hands down for me the best bot lane in the league, and like it's really not even close. Like those two, like Sifrik is like the best support in the league, and Riv is probably top 3 worst case. So I think putting Moriarty down in the bot lane to face against those two, it's just gonna just make it harder for him to even get a lead if he just doesn't lose the lane. So I think it might be a little a bad call for Abyssal, but I don't think they really had a chance. So I think Joey Bunny just dropped, or he wanted to leave. So um it's the best iteration for Abyssal, but I think Flippa, especially with Seferic, I don't
Mhm.
expect the bot lane to be even competitive for them.
Okay, so we will then look at the last and streamed match of the week. We do have Hyperion Origin versus Monkeys Rising. So Matt Pizza, I'm gonna have to ask you
Are you
one
guys
last time.
serious?
What is your prediction for this series? Are you on the side of Clutch, or are you a Monkeys fan?
Mm,
Are you at the zoo with us?
I think, you know, I kind of don't like animals. I kind of don't like monkeys.
I
Yeah.
don't
Wait,
like
you're a Wukong player.
monkeys. He's a Wukong
No,
player, by the
I'm
way.
an ex Wukong player. All right.
He's the
I love
verse right
that.
now.
Now
Ah.
I'm feeling Hyperion Origin this this week. Cause okay. The reason I say Hyperion Origin is cause the Rune Mage, right? His Aurelia, I don't know how this guy like manages to just consistently pop off on Aurelia, right? He has really high KDAs for a top laner at like 8 CS per minute. Like that's insane. Like granted he is playing Aurelia, so it is easier to CS, but still consistently getting high CS numbers like greater than 8 and also like having a good chunk of like kills, assists, and damage dealt per minute. Like
Uh,
I don't know. I'm a Rune Mage fan.
so would you say this is a 2-0 for Hyperion or a 2-1?
I really hate monkeys today. Maybe it's because of Paka, but I really just hate
Ooh, I
monkeys today.
really
2-0.
hate
Um,
monkeys. Okay.
hmm, that looks bad on the league,
All right.
people. Hating on your own stuff.
Shh. Paka never watches this anyway. It's fine. He won't know.
He does watch. What? This guy watches, by the way.
Nah, there's no way. He'll watch the VOD and like maybe in like a few days he'll come up to be me and be like, Mad Pizza, what is going on here? And I'll be like, oh, Paka, a little too
Okay.
late.
Okay, on the other side of the coin then. Sultan, you said 2-1 for Monkeys Rising.
Hmm, hmm. I think um I from week one when we were doing the underdog winners for the league. I just I just think this team is just really good as a team. Hyperion, like Dracana is that player that kind of enables the team and he doesn't really lose the lane. But I think Chinese Spy can also do the same. Like he can just pick the victor and say, okay, I'm not gonna win the lane. I'm just gonna scale and do a billion more damage than you in the late game. Like he can do those things, and especially with Monkey's bot lane playing really well lately. I don't think Attila is going to be able to get like a huge lead where he can be the 1v9 carry for his team. And it just leaves all the carry potential to Rune Mage, which he can deliver. We saw him like play Irelia go insane. But what can he do if you just ban it? Like there isn't many champions that monkeys like Hyperion has that you have to ban. He can just like let's say ban out Rune Mage and now the whole game is it just depends on monkeys playing good. I think they can like easily win the series. I said 2-1 because maybe Hyperion one of the Hyperion carries, either mid ADC top, just pops off in one game and then they just beat them. But I think overall, thinking that monkeys have been playing with each other for a long time, they've been performing good. They've been taking games of Hawkthorn. They've been beating who did they beat last week? Um,
Hawthorne, they beat Revolution last week.
yeah. Well, no, monkeys. I
Oh,
think they went
Monkeys,
2-1.
they went 2-1 against Big Duck Entourage.
Okay, like the, BD is not maybe the best team in the league, but they're still winning. They're not losing. Hyperion is also winning, but I just think Monkeys have a better team chemistry. They have a better team plan for themselves, and I just believe that their strats and like just being able to keep up with the team plan is just gonna win them the game.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat as you that like Monkeys Rising, like I said earlier, like they're pulling off wins off of they pulled one off of Hawthorne week 1 and they were able to beat Big Dog Entourage last week. Like obviously, a bit on a different side of the coin, Hawthorne is a team that's 2-0 right now in the season and Big Dog Entourage is right now they're 0-2. But I still feel that that shows that Monkeys Rising is one of the like one of the I think top. I don't want to get flamed, but I feel like they're one of the top 4 teams right now in the league. Don't ask
Yeah,
me what the other 3 are, but I do think they're one of the top 4 teams in the league. So,
no,
like, I just feel that the more that Monkeys Rising's roster plays together, like, they're getting better at a really fast rate. Like,
yeah.
we saw a lot of potential. We saw a lot of great plays from all of them in week 1. And, they're a lot of the same players, not all of them, but they're getting a lot of this practice that they need in EDL as well. And like when a team practices that much and they have a lot of just good chemistry, like you said, Sultan, I can see this series being a 2-1 for Monkeys Rising. Though, I do think that, again, Hyperion Origin is still a really good team. There is, like there's no fluke why Hyperion is 2-0 right now in the season. So, I could still see this series being a 2-1 for Hyperion, but I'm glad this is the stream match of the week, excuse me. Um It'll be a really great series to watch. So on the other side of that, then Clutch, you also said 2-0 for Hyperion. So you're on the same team as Matt Pizza.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the bot lane for Xenon, so we already just have the synergy. I know my boy Matt Pizza's never going to leave me behind, even though sometimes he does less damage than me as the ADC. But we don't talk about that. That's
You
just
always leave me behind. What do you mean?
that's I don't know what you're talking about there. It's just support duties, okay? But what I will say is, guys, I mean, like, listen, I know, Monkeys Rising are a good team, but we're staring at literally possibly the best team in the league. Like, yo, are we really gonna say Monkeys Rising are gonna win? Also, Monkeys Rising have an E sub. Now, I don't know if you made this.
Who-
You probably
who-
predicted beforehand. It's Rocker. It's their IBS jungler. He's E subbing for Bergner.
Oh,
So I don't know if that changes anything or what. Like, I think they're both the same skill level to me. So it doesn't really change anything. But like, I just think Hyperion is like, their solo laners are absolutely insane. Rune Mage and Dracana versus Beijing the Second and Chinese Spy. Like, I'm not trying to flame Chinese Spy and Beijing the Second, but like, you are literally up against possibly the best solo laners in the league.
um,
And it just seems for me that Hyperion kind of will just skill gap them and win. Not necessarily saying Monkeys Rising are bad, because I think I had them like number 5 on my power rankings or 6 or something this week. Like, I think they went up. I think Monkeys Rising are a team that is going to make playoffs. And but I think they they've got to, if they win this series, then they prove me wrong. They need to show me something, because against Hawthorne, yes, they did take a game, right? They were 2-1, but Monkeys Rising, they've got to show me something, because right now they're 1-1. Obviously, you have the VBU Krypton and Rev who are above them, and then you've got like Abyssal, BDE, Flippa United who are below them. I think Monkeys Rising sit in at like 5th, 6th right now. So I need to see something against Hyperion. Like, anything. Take a game. If they take a game, I'm happy. If they get 2-0'd, then I'm like, well,
Then he's
okay, it's
happy.
kind of what I expected.
bro.
Okay, like, it's kind of what I expected. So I just need Monkeys Rising to do something, I want to
Just
see it.
just because
He's
Cole said this, they're just gonna 2-0 the Hyperion Gaming. It's like
true.
easy.
He's
Yeah,
It's
poking them
actually
with
just
the
like,
stick. He's like, "Hey, do something,"
that's good. Yeah, that's
oh,
the point. I poked them and then they end up smurfing. And it's on
alright.
stream, by the way. This is the stream match.
True,
I
this
don't
is
know
our
if we.
stream
Uh,
match.
I yoked TV. He's gonna Smurf. I believe in him. He's the best, second best ADC in the league. Even better than Toxin, the weak side god.
Ooh, the weak side
You said
god.
it.
Whoa.
I
Oh
believe
my
in you.
god.
He's the Silvers are taking over the Gold League.
There it is. I think it's just GG or what?
Toxin isn't good, man.
True.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my god, he's
Oh,
cluttering
I'm
comms.
choking. I'm
He-
choking.
clear
He's
comms,
flutter-
please. Clear comms.
uh,
Okay, sorry. That was an assassination. I
that's how hard Hyperion is gonna choke.
Oh,
Whoa! Oh, that's
oh
a
whoa.
no,
hot
That's
take. Okay,
That's
guys, wait.
toxic. That's toxic. That's
This
toxic.
is
that's
I'm
wait. Can I
sorry.
hold on? Hold on. Since we're about to wrap up, can I talk about my BDE prediction since I wasn't here for
okay,
this?
okay.
Because I
Let's
was
let's go
because
backwards. We're gonna
because
let
I'm
Clutch
pretty
talk
sure
about.
I was like
Okay.
the only one who said 2-1. You guys all said Rev, so like
Matt Pizza
let me
also said
defend myself.
2-1.
nah.
I just
I
crossed your name out.
Okay,
Xenon bot lane.
I thought you were just taking my prediction. Okay, so I say 2-1 BDE. I don't know what any of you guys said. This is my upset, okay? Because obviously you gotta have an upset every week. Sometimes something random happens. The reason I say 2-1, guys, they're back. Psych and Poober are back. They're ready. They're gonna go God mode. We got Psych and Poober. We got Swag. We got Revan Storm. Dude, that guy's just gonna pick Corky put the corgi skin on, and he's gonna let his dog play.
Dude,
and
he's
gonna
gonna
get, like, 3
distract me
pentas.
on stream. He's gonna send me more pictures of his dog.
It's game over, okay? So I think BDE, I think this is where they turn it around, right? They've had a rough season so far, 0-2. This is it. This is finally it. They're just like I don't know what Flipper United. The anime arc starts this week. They win, they go 1-2, and they go on a tear. And BDE was my underdog team. They finally put in a roster that I think they can contend with some of the better teams in the league. But it all starts tonight. They need to show up against Revolution. Poober and Sight. Let's see that aggressive play style we've been talking about. And Swag in the jungle, the supportive jungler, definitely going to be supporting his lanes. It should be a banger. I think BDE will take this 2-1. I think it's going to be upset. However, if Rev do win, I mean, it's not really a shocker. I think Rev is really good too. Broke it down for you guys.
All right,
Hot
so
take.
let me go back to our stream match. So again, guys, this is our stream match of the week: Hyperion Origin versus Monkeys Rising. And again, Zell isn't here right now on the desk, but he did make us a really cool video for this week, so I will leave you guys off with that. So remember, 8 p.m. Eastern, about half an hour from now. We'll hopefully see you guys there.